I am happy to be coming to you live this evening. This is another episode of Interviews with Impactful People. And I have a great guest for you this evening. I'm going to be interviewing Ashleah Burkeen. She is an entrepreneur, she is a social media personality, and an author. And I am excited to bring her on. I have just, hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
All right, all right. I'm glad I was able to make this work. I was having some technical difficulties.
I get that. I get that.
All right, I'm glad that you was able to join.
Me too. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for asking. So you're still doing up the averages, which is amazing, right?
I am. It's went through a few different the word escapes me at the moment, but it's went through a few different changes.
Mhm.
I've had different versions of it. Originally it started as a personal motto.
Mhm.
And then it became a Facebook group. And then I used the theme to write a series of books, of daily devotional books. Um, Originally, it was going to be one book. It was called Up Your Averages, a daily guide for improving your life or something like that. Right? I forget the exact title. But
Okay.
after I wrote the first one, um, about improving your life in general, I decided to make it a series. So I wrote another one on for couples um, on a daily guide to improving the quality of your relationship.
Love
And
it.
then I wrote one about finances, up your averages, a daily guide to improving your finances. And then after I wrote all three of those, the way they're written, it's like a page a day. It's like a photo, like an inspiring photo, like a
Yeah.
motivational photo or something, and then a commentary for the day, a thought for the day. Well, after I wrote all three books, I had all them images. So then I took um, all the images, the best of each book, and I compiled all them together into a fourth book and called that Up Your Averages: A Daily Guide to Improving Your Life for People Who Don't Like to Read.
Nice. 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 I like it. Hey, I like it. A little bit of everything in it. I
Right.
love it.
So then from there, I made it a YouTube channel, right? So it keeps going through different variations, but yeah, the theme is still alive.
Yeah. Hey, it's evolving with the times, right? I love it. It's
Right,
awesome.
right. That's what we have to do. And you're doing big things too, huh?
Yeah, sure. I'd like to think so. It's a lot of effort, so I'd like to think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I be seeing you on social media. I like your little videos and stuff.
Thank you, thank you, I appreciate that. It makes it worth
And,
it, right? It gives you the courage to send it out.
right, right. It looks like you're raising a bunch of farm animals, and that's where you're happy.
Yes, that's where I'm happy. I worked really hard to afford the life where I'm cleaning up poo from other animals. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. So the last time I seen you, you were a rising star in Master
Mhm.
Networks. You and your husband, and had became a regional owners, managers, director, something,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And you was doing big things there in Missouri, right?
Yeah. Yep. In Missouri.
And you and your husband owned a remodeling business,
Mhm.
and I think you was kind of just getting started, getting your feet up under you there as far as social media goes.
Mhm.
So bring me up to date.
Oh goodness. So all of that spiraled times 10, right? So general contracting company. We're 10 years in, and we have now an investment portfolio. We do fix and flips. We own a short-term rental company, so we have Airbnbs across St. Louis. And yeah, it's just expanded. So it scaled and grew bigger. And I'm still doing Mash Networks. I'm the regional partner for the territory of Missouri. And we're growing and going, and love it, blessed. And then right, afforded this life that I love, and I got to sit back and I thought, wow, like I did it, I made it. Now what, right? And so that's where the book came, and the growth journey, and focusing on what is next in life, which was fulfillment once finances were taken care of. So
Okay. Okay. So, how much of your evolvement, how much of your scaled success from where you was to where you're at now would you equate to Master Networks?
So obviously we did the work, right? But a lot of it, because I like to call baby entrepreneurs when we started Mesh Networks. We didn't know business 101, right? We were reading out of books, didn't have any technology, no processes or systems. So a lot of our success has come from the resource of Mesh Networks, for sure. For sure.
Okay. Okay. And so tell me about this book. I really like your title, From Unlovable to Unstoppable. That's intriguing. I haven't had an opportunity to read it yet. So tell me what it's about and how you came up with that title.
Yeah, so unloved, unstoppable, because I grew up, I was raised by a narcissist. And not like as a buzzword, an actual narcissist, right? And so I grew up feeling not
And that
loved.
was and that was your mom or your dad or somebody else who
My
raised you?
my dad. My dad. Yeah, my dad.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and so I grew up with zero self-worth, zero self-esteem. I was a people pleaser. I had no boundaries, right? The life was being drained out of me. I never felt I was enough, all those things. And so when I started my growth and healing journey, and a lot of it had to do with entrepreneurship, right? Because you gain confidence in entrepreneurship. I became unstoppable when I learned how to set boundaries, and when I learned how to love myself and say, it's okay that you can love yourself. I know society says, oh, that's conceited or self-absorbed, right? But like you're number one, numero uno, always, right? And so it will be a series like you. I don't know if I'll go as cool as you have, right? But
Oh, I don't know
it'll
about that.
it'll be a series of 5 books. So this one's was the intro, Unloved, Unstoppable, talks about basic boundaries, self-love, that kind of stuff. Your circle, and then the next few will be like unloved to financially free, unloved to in harmony, right? And so each one will play off of something else. So I tell my story in there, and then there's also a lot of like mindset coaching along with my story, how I share, or where I share how I overcame some of the obstacles and push through all that.
So it's kind of like your version of Chicken Soup for the Soul, right? Just a
Yeah.
big series, okay, of healing and
Mhm.
your journey.
Yep.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah.
What made you decide to write a book?
So I have
Where did the
adult
idea come from?
Yeah, so I have adult ADHD, right? So I'm always speaking, not always the best, but when I write, I can really get deep in thought with words. I've always written, even whenever I was a kid, I was writing books, just never publishing them, right? I like poetry, all this stuff. I love to read. And so I was putting my thoughts down on paper as a part of therapy to heal. And in that, I just, thought I want to make an impact on other people, because if I could protect or help somebody not feel the way that I felt for so long, it would be worth it. And so that's where the book came from, is my opportunity, hopefully, to help other people and impact them, because we don't have to live in the suck. Life is so beautiful, and we just focus on the negative, I think, sometimes.
Okay. Where where a lot of people may have the idea to write a book, but
Mhm.
the actual steps of writing the book and moving forward to getting it published.
Mhm.
Um, how did you learn that process? And to people who may be listening who may want to publish their own book, like where did the mechanics of it come from?
Yeah, sure. You know me, Mark, and you're similar, is I'm really big on investing in myself and realizing that I'm not the expert at all things and I don't know how to do it all, right? And so I went to a workshop to be a publisher or a podcaster. And there I learned how to write books and the specific elements and stuff. And then the lady that owns that company, Wendy Melrose, she actually I would write, she'd be like my accountability partner, and then I handed it all off to her, and she did all the background stuff on Amazon to help me self-publish. She knew all the tips and tricks and how to prevent Amazon from taking all the moolah and all the good things. So I really I used a resource in that to make it easier on me. Yeah.
Okay. The reason why I asked that is I've written 9 books myself, and it all started in 2018. Um, how I got the idea, and all of our journeys are kind of different, but I was at a connect with Master Networks,
Yeah.
and I think it was the second one I ever attended, and I was hearing Chaz speak, and I don't know if it was something specific he said that made me want to write a book. I don't remember the genesis of the idea. But at the same time, when I got back, I had a client that I wanted to help as far as SEO and stuff like that. That was the first book I wrote. It was about uh, it was kind of an entrepreneur's handbook to understanding Google and how to rank your business number one on Google, that kind of thing. And I had a client that I was trying to prepare some information for, and I had written a series of blogs on my
Okay.
website about this particular SEO subject. And then I went to the Connect and I heard Chaz speak. For those of you who are listening who don't know who Chaz is, Chaz Wilson. He's the founder of Master Networks. And I had scheduled a meeting with him the next month, and I was really inspired to be able to walk into his office a month from then and be able to say, I listened to you speak. Here's how it impacted me. This is what I did, and put a book down on his desk and say, I wrote this and published this in the last month. Now, it didn't actually happen quite that fast or quite like that, but it almost happened like that. But I didn't
Nice.
have to write it because I had already had the blogs written. And I was speaking with a guy in Master Networks, Tim Jacobs. You might know him. He publishes and stuff, and he's the one who got me into Master Networks. So I had asked him how to publish, and he kind of walked me through the steps of publishing on Amazon. And he edited my book for me and kind of helped me out there. And after I wrote the first book and after I got it published, I was hooked.
Yeah.
Right? I was like, "Oh, I can do this." Right? And then I
Yes.
sat down to write my next book and it took me 2 years.
I feel that. I feel that I'm on year 2 for my second one, so I definitely understand that. I wrote my first one in 28 days, um, and that's just because I was gonna speak at an event and I wanted to have it ready for that event, right? Pre-sales for that event.
Right.
Wrote it
Right.
in 28 days, and that's what I'll say about the accountability with Wendy is for me, I'm in construction, right? So I'm always go, go, go. And so to sit down somewhere and to consistently write, I felt like I was being not productive. Right. So it was
Uh-huh.
really hard for me to make myself sit down and write. And so that's where the accountability piece came in. And then she did all the editing and all that stuff and helped me figure out the cover and colors and all that fancy stuff. But I love that. And funny you say that. So I don't know if it was that connect, but Jen Byer wrote a book and she got up on stage and she talked about writing a book, right?
Mhm.
At one connect. And she said before she got off stage, I know for a fact somebody in this audience is going to publish a book and they got their book in them right now. They just have to put it down on paper. And then she got off stage and she came up to me and she was like, I'm talking about you. Now, 2 years later, I wrote the first book. So not quite in that same year as she called, but yeah, I get it. My second book is gonna be a series of 5 and I have all the context. It's just making time to sit down and do it. So I definitely understand where you come from on that one.
It's amazing how our life changes because of the people we surround ourselves with.
100%.
Um, and that's kind of the whole idea behind the up your averages, like my motto. Um, I heard a quote by Jim Rome one time. It said, "You're the average of the five people you most closely associate with." And I looked around myself one time, and I I wasn't inspired. I wasn't
Mm.
impressed. I wasn't envious. And I didn't want anything that a single friend of mine had.
Right,
Right.
right,
And I
right.
realized, I'm probably hanging around the wrong people. And I I was in business. I had started a business. And like you had said earlier that getting I'm into entrepreneurship. It kind of helped change the focus of your life. It did with me too. At one point, I had made some poor life choices, and I, I was kind of strung out on that white powder, you know, at one point, and I couldn't get off of it.
Mm,
And I started a business, and man, I got clean, and I got obsessed with my business and growing my business, and then I began to get around better people,
mhm.
and I begin to learn and I begin to grow, and the whole direction of my life changed.
Yep.
And I, uh, I might turn my back on that old lifestyle I used to live. And man, that's been 20 years ago or more, maybe even more than that, 25 maybe. And a lot of people say, well, I need a 12-step program, or a lot of people need this or that or whatever. And I don't discount any of that. But for
Mhm.
me, it was starting a business. It
Yeah,
changed my whole life.
me too. Yeah.
And then there's been some times in my life where I I won't say that I went back to that, but I was down. I wasn't
Mhm.
my best. And I wasn't in business, right? I had walked away from the business. I had moved. Did some other things with my life. And as soon as I started another business and begin to build it and begin to grow, uh, my life followed suit. And not to make it about me, but when you was talking about yourself and saying, no, your life really kind of changed at that point, I related to that.
Yeah, well, I mean, and like business is ever evolving, right? And so I think the longer that you're in it, you evolve with it, right? And you can't always take everybody with you. There,
No,
who said, is it like 50 Cent or somebody says, I've invited everybody to come on the journey with me, but if they choose not to change, I can't level up and be at their level still. And so no hate,
right.
no bitterness, but where who I need to become to be what I want to be. Unfortunately, there's some people in my life that I have to kind of process by a
Yeah,
little,
either come along or get left behind, but I'm moving forward.
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you really do. And so business for my husband so similar, right? Like he was just a train wreck, right? I used to call him Wreck It Ryan whenever he was in his early 20s and teenager, right? Just from the stories I would hear. And business really changed his life because he was so busy and focused on that and then got addicted to the success of it that it fed any other like he didn't have time for any other nonsense, right? Because he was just feeding off of getting better, doing better, right? And then meeting his goals and like reaching further and further out. So yeah, I can't relate personally to your specific situation, but I definitely know what that's like because I experienced that with through my husband.
um, so uh, I take it that a lot of your success is because you have built multiple streams of income. You got
Yeah.
uh, your husband's business, maybe yours too. I'm not trying to diminish there. I'm just saying. And you said that you're doing Airbnbs now, and then fix and flips and all that kind of stuff. How important to success and how important to financial stability would you say developing multiple streams of income is?
Now, people do it all the time without multiple streams, right? They just go all in on one. But I think that there's a special way in business where you can have a stream of income and then have like branches off of it where it's this. So like for us, right, we own a general contracting company, we have an investment portfolio, and we do Airbnbs. It's all kind of the same wheelhouse. So it's our talent and what we're good at, but also brings in different stages of income at different times, right? I will say if you want to get there faster, you will have multiple streams, and I feel like there's a level of installation and protection to you too when that happens, because business is business and the economy's crazy and people are crazy and there's so many factors in business for it to run. Sometimes you have to have a team and people can be difficult. Everything's easy till you add humans, right? And so I
Right.
think there's this
Everything's
layer of
easy to yeah.
protection. Right. There's this layer of protection that, if for whatever reason this business doesn't work out, I don't have to scramble and start from the bottom and rebuild. I have these over here as a safety net. And then you also have time, like we had time to start saving money more, to do kings and queens cash, right? Which is how we pay ourselves bonus money. So like if I want to buy a couch, I can just go buy a couch. I don't have to call my husband and be like, it's a big purchase. The money just kind of there. And so I think it's more opportunity. I think it's more opportunity. And there's additional money to invest in yourself so you can be even better at your business and make even more.
Now it sounds like you're pretty well off as far as financial decisions and stuff like that.
Sure.
Um, I I want to ask this question, but I want to make sure that ask it with and you understand what I'm saying.
Sure.
How do you? I don't. I, I know what I want to say, but I'm trying to figure out how to word it. I believe a lot of people are robbed of financial freedom
Hmm.
because of payments. I think when you're making payments, like say car payments,
Sure.
stuff like that, equipment payments. Now, a lot of that's necessary, but I think every dime that you put on a payment is a dime you can't put in savings or a dime you can't put in investing.
Sure.
Um, how has debt, because some debt can be good, but how has debt and payments played into your financial success, whether you utilize it or
Hmm.
whether you don't utilize it? Like for example, I used to work at Waffle House one time, and a lot of people don't know, but Waffle House has no debt. When they build a new restaurant, they pay cash
Nice.
and they owe nobody nothing, and they build their whole business with no debt at all. And then there's other people who leverage everything they got,
Yeah.
and it works for some people and some people it don't. How has that, or how has that not played into your situation?
So I will say one of the great things about being a business owner are obviously the financial breaks, tax cut, right? Those things, those luxuries that we get.
Sure, sure.
So in the beginning, when you don't really have a lot of capital, and I've always been really big on not doing partners because it kind of muddies the water, right? Like unless we absolutely had to, right? And of course, as most entrepreneurs start out, they know you don't really get financed in the beginning. Some companies make you wait banks make you wait 1 or 2 years to get financed, right? And so I will say in the beginning, a lot of our business was ran off of credit, right? Until we could get to a place where we're comfortable. And now we own all the things and there's no payments, right? We buy them outright. So I think it makes a big difference. Although I will say sometimes in the beginning, you have to do that to get where you're supposed to be going. And then, of course, your business debt is not going to affect your personal debt all the time. So a majority of the time, actually, right? And so if you're going to take a chance, to do the debt, do it through the business because that's just something that you could just rename a business after you handle that debt or whatever. But
Sure.
I I would definitely say we came to a place where to not have to pay anybody or owe anybody has been beneficial. Obviously, outside of the real estate that we own.
Right, right.
Yeah. Does
Okay.
that answer your question?
Yeah. So let me ask you a few uh not personal questions in the way of your personal life, but personal meaning not business related or whatever,
Sure.
just kind of how you deal with things mentally, emotionally, that kind of thing. Um, have you ever been in a situation in business or personal, what either way, where somebody has ripped you off or really screwed you over? And if the answer is yes, how did you deal with that? And if that was a long time ago and maybe you didn't deal with it the best way, how would you deal with that today? And if it's recent, how did you deal with that? And the reason I asked that question is a lot of people deal with that situation,
Yeah, sure.
and I'm hoping to offer a little insight and l- a solution, maybe.
Yeah, yeah, sure. So in business, one thing about me is I'm always calling my attorney, right? So I don't get ripped off very easily in business.
I bet he likes you.
Right, right. I will say there is some situations where you may weigh the cost of an attorney and the bill, right? And so you take the hit on the chin. However, I will say a resource for people. There is this company called Legal Shield, and they sell attorney prepaid legal plans. It is one of the best companies ever. I have had a membership for 9 years now, and they have a for personal, but also for business, where you can call an attorney and they do things like write collection letters for you. And a lot of times, people get a letter from an attorney, and that's all it takes, and they pay you, right? Or they give you the money, or you send a cease and desist, whatever that looks like, or a non compete, right? So that's a
Mhm,
resource for you. And the personal plans are great, especially if you have a lead foot like I do. They take care of tickets and all those things. So, huge resource. Look that up. And then personally, if I get screwed over, I think now I'm so good at detachment that I see you, right? I see what you did there. And now I'm going to move accordingly type of stuff. Personally, but I'm very big on calling an attorney if I'm going to be ripped off. And then also, like, you learn from it. Hopefully you learn the lesson, take it on the chin, and then you don't make the same mistakes again, or you make sure you protect and cover yourself so those mistakes aren't made again, right? Like in the beginning of our business, we didn't have solid contracts. So we were kind of spit and handshake, and we're gonna assume you pay us. And we had a guy, we did a big commercial remodel, and he owed us 80 grand for the last phase, and he refused to pay us. Well, the job's done now, right? And we're off the
that's
job
tough.
site. Yeah. And so instead of being the crazy person you see on YouTube that goes with a sledgehammer and rips it all out, don't do that. That's illegal, right? That'll cost
Right.
you more. We went to court about it. Now, I will say, unfortunately, we didn't get the 80 grand. We had to end up settling out of court because it came to that point where he wasn't budging, and he was trying to drain us financially, right? And so we took what we could take. But
Mhm.
um, I mean, learn the lesson, cover yourself, make sure you're protected for in the future. But definitely don't dwell on it either. I think that's the mindset piece of it. People are going to rip you off. There's not a ton of bad people in the world, but people do bad things for all different kinds of reasons. And I think take it on the chin, recognize it, recognize that red flag in the next person, right? So you don't deal with the person like that again. And then just figure out how to overcome it for next time so you don't have to worry about it happening.
That's good. Um, I think for me, before, when I was younger, I had a lot of pride, and I was
Mm,
like, "Oh, you're not going to do that to me.
mhm,
I'm not the one."
mhm.
Right?
Sure, sure.
And I would put a whole bunch of energy
Mhm,
into making you miserable. I put a whole bunch of energy into retribution
mhm,
or getting what's mine and that kind of thing. Now, uh, I kind of have a saying, and it's similar to what you said, but education ain't free.
mm,
It'll cost you to learn something.
mhm,
And sometimes that lesson's expensive. Maybe as opposed to doing business with a handshake, now you learn to do a contract, and that cost you 50 grand, to learn that lesson or whatever it may be. Uh, but I try in this day and where I'm at today, I try to follow the peace.
mhm. Yeah.
Sometimes it's better just to walk away. than it is to put all the energy, all the negative energy, as much energy, time, and effort as I'm going to put into trying to right this wrong that you did to me.
Mhm.
I could just put that time, energy, and effort moving forward,
Right, right.
and I would be better off. The net gain by
Mhm.
moving forward is bigger than by dwelling on the past and what you did and trying to right the wrong. So, I try to learn from mistakes so it don't happen again. And if there was some part I played in it, whether it be ignorance or whatever it may be, just because I didn't know, I try to learn from that.
Mhm.
And I try not to give it any more energy than what it requires. Now, it's not always easy. Sometimes
Sure.
people get your timing wrong and you have to reset their clock. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Or you think you have to. It isn't always easy to walk away, but sometimes, and you don't want to give people a license to rip you off or walk all over you. But then again, sometimes it's just better just to let them be and
Yeah,
work on the next project.
yeah.
And I look back in my life, I haven't always dealt with people the way that I should.
Mhm.
So sometimes when it comes back, I just feel like, well, I guess somewhere along the line I planted that seed. And today I try and plant good seeds, so I'm
Yeah.
not in that situation. So in your personal healing, in your personal development,
Mhm.
have have you had people in your life that you've had to forgive, and maybe it was hard, and maybe you haven't yet, or you did? And if so, how did you do that?
Sure. So I'm very, and I write about this in my book, okay, about
Okay.
forgiveness. And I know we've all heard, that saying that's like, not for, or holding a grudge, not forgiving is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die, right? So,
Right, right.
I have definitely forgiven people that weren't even sorry, right? That most people lack ownership and accountability because they think that it means that they're wrong, which it may very well mean that, right? But it's not a growth moment for them. I look at accountability and ownership as growth, but not a lot of people think that way, right? And so I think, yeah, forgiving people that aren't sorry, again, it's for you, it's not for them. That doesn't mean that you're giving them a pass. That's the other thing a lot of people think, is that forgiving somebody when they're not sorry or when they didn't apologize or for whatever reason means that, you're giving them a pass for their poor behavior. No, you recognize the behavior, you forgive them for you so that you have peace inside, right? And that you can move on with your life. Otherwise, you sit there and you dwell on it, right? And what you were saying before, I'm big on that. I used to be a big reactionary person, right? Like, I want to rip your head off. If you hurt me, I was bitter, chip on my shoulder, right? And what I've learned about people is, if they really cared, they wouldn't have done that to you and to begin with. So you spending your energy and your peace not forgiving them and dwelling on them and letting them live rent free does nothing to them. It only harms you. You're only being toxic for yourself. Those people are going on with their lives. They made the decision to hurt you or harm you or disrespect you, and they didn't care about doing that. So if you think that they care about you not forgiving them, they don't care. They don't even know that you exist anymore, probably, right? So it's difficult, and it's something you have to work at, and we don't always get it right, right? And but I promise you, it's super freeing when you can forgive people that aren't sorry, that don't say sorry, and that don't take ownership. But this is where boundaries come in too. You forgive the person, sorry people change the behavior, right? And so if they say they're sorry, but then the behavior doesn't change, you have to put your boundaries up and be like, unfortunately, access is denied to me until you can come correct. Because who you allow, again, it kind of all goes back to the people around you. Who you allow to disrupt that peace is who's really in control. And you should be in control of you and your emotions all the time.
Right. I believe it's so important in all things to protect your peace.
Mhm.
Um, Unforgiveness towards a few people has been a challenge of mine. You know, the Bible says if you don't give, you can't be forgiven. You
Mhm.
know, and I believe in that, and I think I've did quite a few things over the course of my life that I would like the Lord to forgive me for. Right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
The qualification there, th- that mean that means I also have to forgive. And some of the best advice I ever got on that subject, how to forgive people that you can't forgive. Um, I I take action steps
Mhm.
of praying for those people. And when I
Sure.
say pray for those people, what I mean by that is this. I pray for those people the same way I would pray for me. The same
Yeah.
things I would want for myself, I pray for those things for those people.
Mhm.
Um, I I heard a song one time. It's called "I Pray for You," and it sounds positive, but it's kind of negative. And it's like, I pray a brick falls off and hits you in the head,
Yeah,
or
I
I
know what
pray
you're
this
talking
or
about.
that or
Yeah.
whatever. That's not what I mean,
No, no, yeah,
right?
it's a good song.
um, so I have found that when I begin to pray good things for these people, and it's not always easy. Sometimes it's hard to get them
Sure,
words out of my mouth. Um,
sure.
but I find the more that I do that, the easier it becomes to do that, and
Right.
and and more peace comes to the situation. Not that it's
Yeah,
all resolved,
sure.
but it's evolving and resolving over
Yeah,
time. And I think it's so important to our own personal journeys and our own healing and our own path to betterment is
100%.
to be able to forgive, because there's a whole bunch of people out there that may not be able to forgive us for stuff that we've done. And it's
Sure.
real easy to look at what somebody else has done, but it's not always as easy to remember all the wrong we have also done, you know.
Right.
um so whenever I do one of these interviews with people, I always like to get their insight on stuff like that.
Sure.
Um, I I feel like as people watch the channel, my channel is all about positivity, self growth, um, personal development, that kind of thing. I have some entrepreneur stuff in there as well, but I like to give people hope. I
Yeah.
like to shine a light on a
Mhm.
better path. And that's
Yeah.
why I ask questions like that. Um, so what would what's the best advice that somebody's ever gave you?
Oh gosh.
I'm about
Don't
anything.
Gosh, the best of I don't know, there's so much. Off the top of my head though, something I live by and I heard it one time, it really was life-changing for me is you can't expect you from other people. Because
Woo!
yeah, because it sets you up for disappointment and a letdown, right? You're not setting yourself up for success that way. And a lot of times people, the way they treat you, it's not even personal, right? But you're expecting them to behave like you behave. And we're all so
And they're
different
not
from
you.
different. Yeah, they're not you. We're also different from different circumstances, different upbringings, all the things matter, right? Their environments. And so I think, because for a long time, healing through my trauma, I used to think that like I was a huge people pleaser. I used to think like I could just love somebody to death. I love them to treat people how you want to be treated, right? That's
Mhm.
that's not how humans work. That's not how the real world works, right? I mean, you treat people how you want to be treated, but there's a disconnect and not there's not a quality in that all the time, right? So
Right.
um I would be disappointed all the time and get my feelings hurt. And again, and they're just living their lives and I feel like I'm, being destroyed. So I think to not expect you from other people and definitely always communicate, right? If you take something personally, don't be afraid of conflict. Conflict is also growth. Communicate and iron it out. There are people in this world that are in relationships, friendships, whatever, where they don't talk to people that they love, that have been close to them, and that would probably are soul life mates with them, right? Platonic or not, because they got into a conflict and they didn't want to communicate to fix it. And it could have been that simple.
Ah, that's important. That's valuable information there. Um, one more question that I probably should have asked er- earlier when we were on the subject, but I just thought about it. You
Okay.
had mentioned in your book you was raised by a narcissist, and you speak about uh, how you went from unlovable to unstoppable. Um, how is your relationship today with those people that hurt you?
So my dad specifically, he passed away the day after Easter this year. Um, Prior to that, though, we were no contact. Outside of maybe family functions where we'd be around each other, but not really converse. It was very surface level at that point. So I did have to go no contact, and that's hard for some people and hard to hear, right? Because that's your parents, whatever. But at the end of the day, my boundaries and boundaries for everybody are it was for me, not for him. I knew that if I was in contact with him at all, that he would wrap me back into that spinning wheel that was not healthy and good for me. I was getting physically sick, right? Like your how you're treated can take a toll on your
Sure,
mental state, right?
sure, sure,
Um,
sure.
and so I had to do what was best for me. Again, and people sometimes they don't understand that, but that does not excuse me. It does not mean I didn't love my dad, that I didn't want that relationship with him, right? And like so when he passed away, I was mourning not just the loss of his life, but I was mourning the relationship I never got to have with him. And that could be super hard. So um but I was good. I was good. I'm good with it. It was what was best for me, and I thrived after that because I didn't have this person that I was just kind of. It was like a rat race, trying to get validation and approval and feel loved and whatever. And when I stopped focusing on him loving me and I started focusing on loving myself, my life completely changed.
That's great. That's great advice and information right there. How can people get your book? And are you on? Not not only how can people get your book, but how can people follow you on social media? Where you at?
Sure. I am on Facebook, Ashleah Burkeen. Weird spelling. I'm the first one that pops up, so that should be easy for you. My book link is actually in my bio on Facebook or it's on Amazon. And I'm on TikTok, Authentically AB, and Instagram, Authentically AB as well. I do more stuff on my stories on Instagram, so if you want real time stuff, go check out my stories. And then TikTok, I have fun with it. I talk about my adult ADHD, a little bit about business, about trauma. You get to live my life with my animals with me, so you get more of an
Yeah,
insight of
I've
who
seen
I am.
some of your dances in the snow.
Yeah. Everything was white
They
and
always
gray.
make
I
me laugh.
needed dopamine. Yeah.
Great. Well, I didn't previously have all of your social media links.
Sure.
I did put a link to your book in the description of this video, but after this is over, I'll go ahead and I'll put your social media links as well, so anybody watching in the future, they'll be able to connect with you. And do you have a parting word?
Sure. First, let me say, if you see my default picture and I have blonde hair, it's because I just dyed my hair brown. So don't think it's not me. It is definitely me. I just don't have
Gotcha.
update photos yet.
Yeah, got it won't be
I
long.
think my parting words is just learn autonomy, right? Fall in love with who you are and become super self-aware, and you will become untouchable to other people's opinions. You will be more focused on your growth, and then you'll be fulfilled because the end game here in life is fulfillment, not happiness. Happiness is a temporary emotion. We can be happy blowing bubble
I
gum,
like
right? But
that.
fulfillment, yeah, but fulfillment is deep and it's connected and it has purpose. And the end game is purpose, right? And we all have one. So.
Hey, I like that. Thank you so much for your time. I found this to be very worthwhile and insightful, and I hope others will too.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad we got to connect. It's been forever, and I'm so glad we stayed connected and I got this opportunity. So thanks, Mark. I appreciate
Absolutely. Thank you.
it.
Bye.
Bye.